All right, here we go. Here's my awesome coaching friend, Meghann Alice. How are you doing?
Hello. So happy to be here.
Yes, so fun. We have been having lots of fun discussions in the DMs on Instagram, and Megan has an incredible journey of being keto carnivore for many years, and now she's switching things up. So I wanted to have her on, talk about her journey because a lot of people who are keto or carnivore and are experiencing either further health problems or no improvement are actually terrified of adding in whole food carbohydrates. So I know Megan has been in that situation before, and I wanted to bring up her voice and to be able to share her story. So Megan, welcome. I'd love to start out with you just explaining like what brought you to keto or carnivore in both. Maybe summarize that journey a little bit and what were you struggling with before?
Yeah. So my relationship with food was poor for my entire life. Honestly, it stems back from age 9 when I was medicated at a very young age for anxiety, OCD, depression, ADD. Like I had all of the things. And my parents didn't know better at the time. So they put me on medications. I blew up like a balloon. I became the chubby kid. And then throughout the years, really started creating, I don't want to say these words because I don't want to get flagged on YouTube. So, food addiction, struggled with that. And also other poor eating behaviors, we will say, very destructive, very sabotaging. And it really got out of control, like really out of control. Probably, I want to say, 29, age 30, and I had a moment of, I would really say it was a God moment for me. I remember being in the bathroom, heart beating out of my chest, binging, purging, binging, purging, binging, purging, lost count of how many times that had happened that day. And just the voice of God kind of came down to me and was like, if you don't get it together, you are going to die. You're going to die. And my parents had been living the keto carnivore lifestyle for some time. They had found my dad lost 100 pounds, reverses type 2 diabetes. My mother's health improved, like all wonderful things. And I was so desperate to try something new that I was willing to try that. With that being said, prior to going keto carnivore, I was a fitness junkie, like that was another form of poor behavior because the eating was so excessive. So, how are we going to undo it? We're going to undo it in the bathroom, but we're also going to spend hours in the gym working out. And I would actually make fun of people for many years, being up, you don't need carbs to survive, blah, 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 blah. But like I said, I was so willing to try anything new. And I do want to note that when you are in a very sick place, like you're willing to try anything. So keto and carnivore was that for me. And I lived that lifestyle for 6 years. I have coached many people keto carnivore. I mean, I would say most of my coaching was keto carnivore based, not all of it, but a good chunk of it. But I've noticed a lot of things start changing in my own self over the last year, and I knew I needed to pivot.
Okay, yeah. So you definitely have experience in keto carnivore. There are people saying like, "Oh, these people using carbs, they never even were keto carnivore," or excuse me, they didn't do it right. Maybe you didn't fast enough. Maybe you didn't put the fat low enough. Maybe you didn't put the fat high enough. Like all the things to put the blame on the person saying you just didn't do it right, even though you are a certified coach, you're not just a self proclaimed one. You have the training, you continually research, and you've tried all the things, and yet it wasn't helping anymore. Did you find yourself, since you have, we'll just kind of code word it, those behaviors, right? The ones that you discussed, so it's not, like you said, flagged on YouTube. Did you find those behaviors were controlled with keto and carnivore?
Yeah. So it's very, I'm trying to not say the word. So in that space, I totally understand where people can be like, oh, I add this in and I just go to town on X, Y, and Z. And I will say, I do think keto and carnivore for early stages of food sobriety
Mm.
are wonderful. I will say they saved my life. It was, I used that for a season of my life, and I did get clean of those poor destructive patterns. But I also created a whole new fear during that time. And I didn't realize per se I was creating this fear, and I still had a lot more healing to do in my recovery journey. But what it did was, for me, it silenced all of the noise where I wasn't thinking about binging and, doing all of the things. But as my body started to suffer, there was definitely some, you know, light bulb moments where it was like, well, maybe you should try reintroducing. And I will say this, over the last 6 years, there were times where I tried reintroducing certain things. And it definitely did wake up food noise. I'm not denying that. And I would overeat those things, like certain like starchy vegetables and certain fruits. And I would, if I like started to bring them in, I would notice myself like binging on them. I wasn't going to the cookies, cakes, and ice creams and the processed foods, but I was going to town on these things. And so in my brain, I'm like, oh, well, maybe you can't have these things in your life because you're overeating them. But now I look back at to where I am right now versus where I was. And I think those moments were my body just saying, you need this, eat
Mhm.
this, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm gonna say I'm getting over a cold, so if I mute sometimes, I don't want to cough in your ear. But I love that you brought that up, the overeating. So the one thing I confess that I can't grasp it because I've never been in shoes like yours or anybody who is in a similar position as yours to be able to overeat on fruit and vegetables. It doesn't make sense in my head, but that doesn't I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I can't grasp it. Like if someone came to me and said, "That is my problem," I would say, "I'm not the coach for you. I don't know how to help you with that because it doesn't make sense to me." So I don't want to discredit anyone's experience. But one of the things I do know is a couple people I've talked to over this year, most recently the past 4 or 5 months, where they said, "Oh my gosh, I binged on cherries or I binged on whatever the fruit was." And I asked, "Well, how much did you actually have?" And they said, "Well, I just kept eating in the bag." I said, "Can you like backtrack and maybe get an idea of how many handfuls did you do and actually measure it?" And when she did, she said, "Oh my gosh, it was like less than a cup." In my mind, I thought I was having tons, but when I actually measured it, it really wasn't much. So it's funny the fear you discuss about carbohydrates and how ketogenic, low carb, and all that instilled that fear. I 100% agree with that. And that did the same for me. So so this is kind of a two-parter, I guess. There's that part. Like, did you actually measure? Was it actual overeating of it? And then the other part is my understanding, and I'm always willing to be corrected on this. My understanding of an actual binge behavior would be you are actually full, but you keep going anyways.
Correct.
So, was that actually what it was for you? You felt full, but you kept going on the fruits and vegetables?
Yes, but it was only so I would only allow myself those things certain times. So like Thanksgiving and the holidays. So like God forbid squash is the worst thing that I do on Thanksgiving, But I
Yeah.
would but I also too like yes, I would eat to the point of full and then keep eating until I'm like, oh my gosh, and so that's why I think for a very long time, like, or even when I tried allowing myself tomato sauce, it was very triggering because it had sweetness to it, right?
Mhm.
And I remember my coach, I'd had lots of coaching for 4 or 5 years. And even my coach, who is in the keto and carnivore space, she would say, Megan, I would love to get you to a place where you can eventually have fruit or have these things where you aren't triggered or you don't go on a binge. And now for me, because I know in the past in my coaching, I talked about, well, like, like whatever keeps the food noise away, like that's
Yeah.
that's a good thing. But what if now we said, why don't we challenge that noise? Maybe that noise is your body saying, yeah, like we need this. There's a big difference between eating watermelon and fruit and squash and sweet potatoes versus going for the cookies, cakes, and the ice cream. They're totally different food groups. But I think for me, the back to the measuring thing. So also, it's like the in the space of, when you're dealing with a poor relationship with food and, destructive behaviors, sometimes like my clients typically when they come to me for that, I don't always love having them track macros. I don't. Now, I came to find when I was starting to bring stuff back in, stuff that was maybe scary to me, I am actually very grateful that I tracked because it was a tool to tell myself, show my brain, like, that's a decent amount of sweet potato. It's X amount of carbs, and you're not binging. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
And I think for me, tracking right now has been a very wonderful tool because when you're moving away from being such high fat, I think it's really important to know what you're putting in because we know high carb and high fat don't do well together.
Right, right. And that's one of the things, like for a while, I would tell myself, and I think I've said it on social media, as I was bringing in various carbs, potato was my weakness that I was saying, I can't. And yeah, I talked about this on my last video that I can't do potato because I would keep going. But I never got the satiety signal. I would just keep eating it. And then I was talking with my husband and I realized, wait a minute, we're we're making French fries in the air fryer and we're spraying it with fats. Or if we do the baked potato and you're slathering it with butter, that's essentially the same. It's the high carb, high fat that's so tasty. And
Mm.
that's the processed foods thing too. You were saying that you weren't gravitating towards the junk foods when you were overeating the fruits and vegetables. Well, I'm going to say the fruits for now. But the junk foods, I think what a lot of people don't realize is majority of the calories of those processed foods are typically fat. And there are carbs in them, but there's also a lot of fat. Like we weren't I don't see many people going to snack wells and downing snack wells, right? Like those low fat processed foods that taste
Can we
like
just
paper.
talk about those for a minute?
Okay, yeah.
Being a child, because once again, like we're talking, what, I'm 37. So, like, back when I was like 12 years old, those were the healthy
Right.
snacks. Like, if you wanted a sweet treat, that's what you would have. And I legit remember as a child overeating those things.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy you brought that up.
No, I always think of those and the Belvita crackers.
Mm.
Those actually I did have a lot, but I don't know what the fat content is on those. But there's also the bliss point, right, of the processed foods where when it's chemically made in a factory, they know that sweet spot that makes it taste really good, that we keep going. And then the other part of it, it's not just about like macronutrients, right? There's the micronutrients, there's the phytonutrients, there's the antioxidants. So I like what you said. I'm going to backtrack a little bit that maybe you weren't overeating. Again, we're coding the word overeating because of an addiction, but because of your body's like, oh my gosh, this is what I've needed for so long. And you
Yeah.
weren't going to the processed foods. And it's not just about the macronutrients. This is one thing I keep harping on. It's not just a carb, fat, and protein thing, but it's also the other micronutrients. And we have heard it spouted so much in the carnivore space that meat is the most nutrient dense food. And yes, it has lots of nutrients, but there's other things our body does need and can survive without for a little bit. But that's the key, is a little bit.
And I will say this, you can overeat protein and fat, and calories do matter. They do matter, regardless of what people say. They do matter. I will say, not every calorie is created equally,
Right.
100%. But I mean, I have labs showing from a couple of years ago, my liver and kidney function weren't looking that great.
Well, same. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kidney was fine for me, but my liver, granted, I am on medication still for my epilepsy, but very low dose. But prior to that, like I went back before keto carnivore to look at my labs, and my liver was fine on the medication. So I know that my liver enzymes did not elevate just due to the medication. I know it was due to the lifestyle. And once I started bringing down the fat and the protein, and granted, like when we say going down, just clarification, y'all, it's not like we're eating 20 grams of, like we're still, I'm assuming you're still on a higher end of protein, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm between 130 and 40 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's still incredibly
But what
like,
I was getting, when you're a carnivore, the base of your food is protein and
yeah,
fats. I mean, I probably had some days that were easily 200 grams of protein.
yeah.
Like, as a woman, like, yeah, okay, no wonder why my kidneys and liver probably weren't doing that amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I just wanted to say that because a lot of people think as we are adding in carbohydrates that we are poo-pooing the fat and protein and like we're just binging on only fruits and vegetables when that's not the case. We're just adding them in and we're switching our energy source, like away from
100%.
the fat to more of a glucose driven energy source. One of the things I forgot to ask you, we kind of just started going, which I love these conversations when they do that because they just take on their own thing. But I want to make sure people have the context. Why did you switch away from
Oh,
keto and carnivore? Like what made
yeah.
you finally decide to add in the carbohydrates?
Okay, so I have been on a health journey, honestly, since 2014. My health history is pretty all over the place. Like I've had a lot of things happen to me. So 2014, I decided to get off of psych meds. I was on them literally for basically from age 9 to age 24 or 25. So a lifetime. And I wanted to discover who I was because I was like, I think these drugs are making me like crazy, you know?
Yeah.
But I didn't know any better because I just went to my doctor, listened to what he was saying to me, and I'm like, dude, like I'm sick of walking around like a zombie just not wanting to live when I've got a life to live. So, decided to get off of meds. For anyone who is listening to this, never ever cold turkey off of medications. I didn't know better at the time. I think I was so upset, so mad. I found a book. It was called Anatomy of an Epidemic, and honestly, that was the game changer of my like the trajectory of my life. But when I read this book, I was just full of anger. And I was like, I'm getting off of these. Like, I think I finished the last pill bottles that I had and basically cold turkeyed. And by doing so, I went into 5 years of psychiatric drug withdrawal. It was living hell every single day. But I knew that this was part of it. Like, I knew that this was withdrawal. But long story short, I ended up achieving more than I ever had in those 5 years because I was just determined to just like F you to big pharma. So went through that and then started my career in the fire service. Ended up having a traumatic brain injury. So right when I started to recover from psych med withdrawal, then I got hit with my brain injury. And then shortly after that, got sick with mold illness and then found out I had SIRS. So like there's so many pieces to the puzzle, but sometimes I wonder if I pulled the trigger on my chronic inflammatory response syndrome just from a zero carb diet for so long. But back to your question is I think at least this last year, I want to say in January. January came of last year, of January, well, 2025. And I almost always do a full, strict 90 days of dairy free carnivore. And January came, and I kid you not, I was literally gagging at the thought of another steak. Like, I was like, oh, like I just can't. And like for me, like for somebody who would like used to pound down ribeyes like nobody's business, the fact that I was like gagging at that, I'm like, this is like my body's telling me something, you know? And so I didn't do carnivore, but I stick with like pretty, keto or whatever. Tried to bring in some more carbs, but then I'm like, oh, I don't like the way I feel. I didn't like how my body was looking. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go back to carnivore. So I forget which month, but I did a podcast on this, like probably it was probably in the springtime. And I talked about why I went back to carnivore. And because it was easier for me mentally, it gave me less food noise, which was true. Like it was
Hmm.
just easy, but when I'm trying, I think I was using carnivore as a band-aid, but like I even had a friend who I spent a whole weekend with. She's also in the health space, love her very much. And she was like, Meg, she's like, I mean, she's a registered dietitian, very smart. And she's a registered dietitian that would align with your and our
Sure.
views. And she was like, I think she's like, you're just using carnivore as a band-aid. And I almost got like a little defensive when she said that. Like, it's kind of rude, but I'm like, damn, I think she might be right, you know? And
Yeah.
those are the friendships that I can appreciate because I'm pretty blunt myself. Like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty honest with people, whether you want to hear it or not. I typically say it. And that kind of sat with me for a little while. And then, just my energy had just been so terrible. And I had already known like my thyroid wasn't that great, my liver enzymes, my kidneys. But I also thought that was just my SIRS and my inflammatory response syndrome going on. Like, and maybe it was, but I'm telling you, for somebody who's a gym junkie like me, like I genuinely love working out. Yes, in the past, I definitely had a very poor relationship with fitness, like to the point where it was unhealthy. I've worked on my relationship with fitness tremendously, and it's something I do every day or at least 5 days a week, but I do it in a healthy way. It's not like self-hatred or just like, oh, got to burn every calorie, but my workouts were just struggling, and I typically love working out. It's like my time,
Mhm.
and I wasn't loving it. Like I was having to mentally push through every workout. Like I would put my timer on for 30 minutes just to move my body, just say I did it, and I showed up and I did it, and I'm so glad that I did do that. Like I still showed up on the hard days, but just not feeling like myself. My hair had just been like thinning throughout the years. And so my mom and dad, they got into, my sister's a psycho hiker, like love her to pieces. She's amazing. She's an amazing athlete. And my parents, who are in their 60s, just started getting into running and hiking. And I mean, they're savages. And so my mom's like, yeah, we've been upping our carbs. And I'm like, no way. She's like, yeah, we feel so much better. And my mom's like, my mom and my dad are like me. Like they live the same like lifestyle. And I know reintroducing carbohydrates was really scary for my mom too. And they're the ones that also got me into keto. So I'm like, okay. And so actually, I'm going to tell you this. And I don't think I have told anybody this yet. And it's in my notes. I'm going to create content on it at some point. So every now and then, I will allow myself a keto ice cream. There is a brand that I really like now. It's like I think it's called the keto ice cream, but the ingredients, it's the best ingredients I have yet to find for like ketogenic ice cream. And so if you eat a whole pint of it, I mean, it's like 500 calories. It's like probably a 50 of total carbohydrates. And I'm sorry, I'll eat a pint of ice cream and I'm not going to feel guilty about it anymore. Like it's not like it's very different from a Ben and Jerry's. Okay. So 50 carbohydrates. The next day, I went for a run, and it was the best run I had in years. It was 6 miles. That was my best run since my head injury and since I went keto. And I'm like, oh, damn.
I
Like,
remember you posting that.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, this is the carb. Like, this is because I had some freaking carbohydrates. And so I'm not saying go get your carbs from keto ice cream every single night, but that was just another eye opener to be like, oh, okay, there's something to this.
Yeah.
So, and then more people started talking about it, and I slowly started upping my carbs. And I'm just like Jen, I actually every night before I go to bed, I like think about, I'm like, okay, like what am I going to do in the gym tomorrow? Like I'm excited to get my workouts in again. I feel so
Love
much
that.
more full of life. I'm lifting heavier again. Like I'm picking stuff up and I'm like, oh damn, this is really light. Like gotta up my weight. But I just feel better. And I have said this in the food addiction community for a while now, is like many of us have to create our own sense of food freedom, whatever that looks like for you. And yes, I created that for myself in, in my keto and carnivore days, but now I'm in a place where this is a whole other level of freedom. And I hope that everyone can get to a place like this. Like, I never thought, like, I can't tell you how terrified and how scared I was, because when you struggle with those issues, it's like you're so scared to bring stuff back in because you're so terrified of waking up that animal that you remember so well. And so that was like, okay, so instead of me fearing it, I also allow, God has also been a part of my healing journey, and so when it comes to disordered behaviors, there's going to be periods throughout your life where there's going to be so many highs and lows, and in those lows you still need to know how to deal with your emotions and navigate properly. But I was just like, like, ask, if you are a believer, like, ask God to come into your healing journey and like give you like strength, because I think that's another reason. I think a lot of my strength has come from him. Like, I'm still in shock, actually, that I'm actually eating the things that I'm eating again, and I'm okay, and I'm not binging, and I'm not going to friggin' like Dunkin' Donuts and getting donuts, or, the gas station to get, drug foods. Like, I'm good, and I feel amazing.
That's incredible. I loved hearing that whole the whole aspect of it, and the different aspects of it, where it wasn't just keto and carnivore that healed you in that arena, but there's also a faith aspect, but there's also, like, for some people, facing past traumas is a big part of it, like getting to the root cause of why you go to the processed foods or the junk foods, or why you overeat a particular food. I've had clients, you were saying this before, I don't want to interrupt you, but I've had a couple clients who came to me carnivore and they're like, why can't I lose weight? And this was last year, a couple years ago, when I too was like, no, it's going to work. You can do it. It's fine. We just got to adjust
Mhm.
things. And I remember that was my initial waking up moment, like just a spark of curiosity. Okay, we've exhausted, and I'm getting more of those clients now that
Me too.
I'm
And
like,
I'm like, yes, I am too. Sorry to interrupt you, but like, I've had a
okay,
few of them. And that has actually, I actually had a client the other day, love her to pieces. And I said, you are the most difficult client I've ever had.
yeah,
And I love you for that, because it is making me a much better coach, because I'm
yeah,
like, okay, this isn't working for you. Let's figure this out. Like,
yeah.
what other tricks can we pull up my sleeve, or what more research can I do to find what works for you,
Exactly. When you hire a coach like one of us that doesn't have this, we only use carnivore keto. Well, what if that
Mhm.
doesn't work for you? What if we're all different? I mean, you look ancestrally at the Inuit versus people at other parts of the world, they weren't all eating the same, right? Like, it's what food was available. And we have this genetic code within ourselves that can dictate that. So I actually, a little off the topic, but I had a genetic testing thing done with Mayo Clinic. So my neurologist is there and they offered, hey, do you want to do this clinical trial thing? I was like, sure, cool. So the genetic testing they did, one of the tests they checked for was being able to, I want to make sure I get the right words. It wasn't just digest fat, but it was actually utilize fat well. And the comparison they did was like the Inuit. They actually said on there,
Mm.
like the Inuit had. And I did not have that. I was like, golly, okay. So I am somebody that, even though I was doing ketogenic for my epilepsy, trying to help that, I can see why I had digestive upset so often. And that was one reason. I know that I was under eating on carnivore and keto for a long time, but it wasn't on purpose. I literally could not put anything else in. And then when I started bringing some carbs in, I was actually reaching my maintenance calories so that I wasn't in a deficit so long because I could digest it well. And granted, my gut was a little bit of a mess and I've been working on it, but the digestive capacity, my gut was fine. It was like just
Yeah.
microbiome stuff. So it's very
And
interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
you talk about tests, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there was something else
And
too, right?
well, yes, but like, we can't discredit people's stories. you can't discredit data, and you can't discredit when you get a test back that literally shows you are doing well, you know?
Yeah.
So I recently started, offering more testing into my coaching practice because I think it's very important.
Mhm.
And so I recently did a 4-point saliva cortisol test on me just to see where I was at. And that was another wonderful visual of, you know, okay, like you still are kind of in a fight or flight. Your cortisol is high right now. Your adrenals are a little tired. I mean, thank God they're not like super terrible. Like I'm not like phase 3 or phase 4 adrenal fatigue. But that's what I'm saying. So it's like and that's why I like running these on all of my clients now, because I'll tell you one thing. Somebody comes to me with phase 3 or phase 4 adrenal fatigue, they're not doing keto or carnivore.
Yeah.
No way.
And that's something you just said there, like that I think that's one of the fights going on in the space now is that there are some of us that have learned the biology and the physiology of how being in ketosis is a stressor to the body. Utilizing gluconeogenesis constantly is a stressor in the body. But then there's others in the carnivore keto space that are saying, no, it's not. And then they explain their side. And I know it can get confusing for a lot of people, but the bottom line is you test yourself and
Mhm.
you see. And if you are stressed and your adrenals are starting, like, I kudos to you for finding the cortisol thing at the stage you're at. I wish I found that earlier because mine was low because it's been high for so long throughout my life. And I think keto is just the tipping point for it. But if
Yeah.
someone sees that and then they just try it, just test it out. Hire a coach though. I will say if you are going to
Yes.
bring, I mean, granted we didn't, but we have the knowledge and the understanding, but don't just start piling on potatoes with your ribeyes. Don't just start piling on like siete chips with you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's strategy to do this on how, especially if you've been zero low carb for so long, you don't just dive into 200 grams, right?
No.
It's a procedure. Or procedure. It's a process. Wrong word.
Yeah.
But it's a process. And then there's also, if you have gut issues, like we want to be careful of fermented foods at first because that can exasperate. My words are not working well today,
You're good.
but yeah, it can make it worse. Certain, so I mean, there's all those kind of things to keep in mind, and that's where working
And,
with someone can be helpful.
and also, it's not just food alone either, right? There's other things
Yeah,
in play, like making sure, your nervous system, you're doing some nervous system work, regulating that, teaching your body that it's safe. Maybe you're dialing back on your workouts, which I know can be very difficult for people who are, like gym junkies. Um, like when you are in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and you're still in great shape, that's awesome. But that doesn't necessarily mean we need to or should be training the way we were in our 20s.
yeah. No, I agree. I will confess, my workouts have drastically suffered the past couple months, but I have learned to really be in tune with my body of if there is external stressors going on, that
Mm,
is another stressor for me. It's a good stressor, but it's still another stressor.
yeah.
Whole hormesis thing. So I had to dial it back and just do more walking and like still moving. I wasn't sitting on my butt,
Yeah.
okay, but more walking, very simple weights at home, nothing big over there. Between traveling to Tennessee for a conference and then my grandmother passing while I was there, and then needing to figure out going to Massachusetts for the funeral. And there was so much going on. And then I got sick after so like I was listening. I noticed my stress impacted my immune system and I was able to get sick. Nobody else in my house got sick because they weren't as stressed as I was. But listening to that, so I told myself today, now that I'm starting to feel better, it is time to get back in. And I, like you, I get so excited about going. And I already was like, okay, what am I going to do in the gym? Like lifting. And the same happened to me when you were saying you're lifting heavier. And it's like when I was staying in ketosis constantly, it was a struggle to get myself in
Mm,
there. It was such a struggle. And being there, it'd be 20 minutes. And I'm like, I can't, like, when am I going to break a PR? I don't know if you remember, like 2 or 3 years ago, something I messaged you and you were like pumping and you're doing awesome. And I was like, Megan, why am I not growing muscle? And you had said, just give it some time. And I'm like, nah. I've been given a time. But that's another thing, like going to the gym and doing a solid hour and being like, I could still go if I wanted to, but
Yeah,
I have a life and need to move on.
I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to cut myself short actually because I do have like so much more energy now. Even like today, I'm like, I wanted to get a couple more things and I'm like, dude, you gotta get to work.
Yeah.
But I do want to touch base on this. You did a really great video on Instagram the other day about mindset stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved everything you had to say. And I think, I'm very big on what you think and say about yourself is what you become.
Mhm.
And, your words and your thoughts are so powerful. And when it comes to food addiction, if you continue to live in that place, in that headspace, I am this, I am that, that is where you're going to stay.
Mhm.
Maybe that is who you were, who you used to be, but you don't have to be that anymore. So, like, for me, like, I'm not going to touch certain things ever again. And not because I'm maybe addicted to them, but because they're terrible for my health, period. Like, I don't even want them. Like, I don't want the things that I used to binge on. Like, it's just like I don't miss them. That's not an issue for me. But I think so many people get so caught up in their old narrative or their current narrative or this current story. And it's like, no, like you get to rewrite it if you want.
Yeah.
If you don't like where you're at, or you want to be that person that is sick of eating just meat, and you want to maybe start overcoming some fears a little bit, you can do it. And I
Yeah.
don't want to downplay the fears that people have because I get it. I lived it. I've been there. It's taken me years to get me to where I am. But I've also, you got to believe that you can find healing. And when you believe and you don't quit on yourself, you will get there. So definitely, whoever's listening, like, start really working on the mind stuff because it's powerful.
I love that. Yeah. No, 100%. What your thoughts are, what your beliefs are about yourself, your actions will follow. So if you're
Yeah.
constantly downplaying yourself and saying, well, I'm just a food, whatever, or, I can't say no. It's just too hard for me. I see that term a lot lately over the past year or two. More and more people are coming to me and saying, I am a food addict or I am a sugar addict. And when I ask them, like, and they're all different. Like, again, I'm not downplaying people's experiences, but like most of the time I'll say, well, if I let, if we say, hey, have a bowl of strawberries, have a couple apples, will you keep going down the rabbit hole? And no, I can do those. So which ones is it? And it's typically the combo of high carb, high fat, the pizzas, the cookies, the brownies, the processed
Mhm.
foods, the ones that are made to be highly palatable. Usually. I know there's other people's experiences, but like I said, I'm not an expert in that space. So I don't want to speak to those people. But the mindset's a big part of it. Like picturing who do you want to be? And I'm not just talking about like a size 5 person. I don't want
Right.
to be size 5, but who do you want to be at your essence? Do you want to be an active grandmother with your grandchildren? Do you want to be
Mm.
riding bikes with them? Do you want to have joy in your soul? Do you want to be able to eat, I don't know, an apple pie with Thanksgiving? I don't know. Like, do you,
Or go to a farmer's market when you're in
and
Florida or somewhere tropical and be able to
yes,
get coconuts and mangoes?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's no, exactly 100%. Like, it's picture yourself where do you want to be and be as specific as possible, not just the weight, not just the size, but your health, because then that's when everything else follows.
Yeah.
That is a scientific proven aspect of neuroplasticity of what you believe it radiates to the rest of your body. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I want to say one more thing and I'll shut
No, go
up.
for it.
But I really encourage everybody who is, maybe you're in the low carb, ketogenic, carnivore space. It's like, I'm pretty sure I can speak for you, Jen. It's like, we're not judging
Mm,
anybody. In fact, I'm here to support everybody's journey, whether you're keto, carnivore, low carb, high carb, vegan, like I don't care what you are, as long as you find your way. And I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Like I'm just drowning out all the noise because my life's too good to get into it. And I think
yeah.
everyone else should do the same.
I love that you said that because I know that there are some carnivores, there's some high profile ones that feel judged that we're talking about this. And I'm like, I am not judging anyone. I am trying, like you, to bring this topic to light for people that are not finding solutions in that space.
Mhm.
But yeah, I absolutely will still use carnivore and keto at the appropriate times with the appropriate clients. But that's
Yeah,
the key
me too.
word, is the appropriate ones. There are some
Yep.
that it is not going to work for, or they're not working. It's like, I have one that I said, "Are you willing to switch some things up?" She's like, "Absolutely." I said, "Great. Let's let's try it out. We'll meet on a call and we'll talk."
And you know what? I think there is something to be said too, like keto carnivore. Like, I think it's an amazing reset, especially for the gut too. Like, people who are dealing with certain gut imbalances or candida. I mean, I think it's a great tool. And like you, I will definitely use it for certain people. But for me, it's not a life sentence. I don't think it should be a life sentence. And I think my biggest thing for me is like, I don't want to have anybody get to a place where I am at or was and have to restore hormones, all of
Yeah.
that.
No, 100%. Yep, I agree. I think a lot of people say, "Well, I feel good on it." And I mean, I did too.
Yeah.
I did too, but you got to realize, like, what is it actually that's making you feel good? Is it the adrenaline rush? Is it all those hormone cascades
Yeah.
that actually contribute to that? And I don't know, maybe for some people it might work, but I don't know any part of ancestral history that did that long term. Like winter, if you want to do it seasonally, winter would be the time to do a more lower carb keto approach because that's what happened. Like there was snow, you weren't getting the berries, the squashes, and all that, only stuff that was stored up and fermented and pickled jars. I don't know, whatever they did. But but yeah, like when there's stuff seasonally available in your, like I live in Phoenix. We're not hibernating yet. Like it is still,
I am.
you're up north where I used to be originally, but yeah, like we still have the fruits. We still have 85-degree weather today.
Yeah.
So I can still enjoy the fruits without my body being confused, because then we won't get into all this, but then there's the light aspect too, right? Like
Right.
food is light. That's a whole other one to get into. But anyways, I loved hearing your story. This has been great. And being able to put our stories out there so other people can say, "You know what? I wonder if I should try that." Or if you're not ready, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. Just when, because you don't want to be stressed while doing this. Like you don't want to be freaking out. I did originally 2 years ago when I tried working with a coach who was bringing carbs in. And I was so stressed because for me, it was controlling my epilepsy. And that's terrifying. I'm a mom. I don't want to have a seizure
Mhm.
driving, right? But I think that overcame my initial fear. Granted, it didn't work for me that time. I gained a buttload of weight, but I wasn't doing it properly. I wasn't tracking. Like you said, when you're keto, you're high fat, you're just used to
Mhm.
that. I didn't bring my fat down enough. That was part of it. And I
Yeah.
believe I still had some inflammation that just wasn't resolving. So working on that and everything, and now it's been great. And I'm still figuring some things out. I will be honest. And I'm going to make another video.
But I think
We
if
all are.
we all are, and if
Yeah.
you're, especially if you're a coach, you should always be learning, right? We should
Yeah.
always be learning. If you aren't continuously learning, like get out.
Yeah. Well, like for me, at first I was like, okay, well, and everybody, you're gonna test out different carbs. You're gonna see, like, does rice, like rice works for
Yeah.
you. You told me you liked having rice.
I reintroduced rice last night for the first time in
Mhm.
literally, well, at least 6 years. And
Yeah,
I was fine. I did just one cup and I was fine. I was a little nervous, like if it was gonna like hurt my stomach.
yeah,
And yeah, it was fine.
yeah. And so for me, I haven't had any GI issues with any of them, but it's been more mental aspect, like if anxiety starts popping up, and it
Yeah.
was starches and rice that it was causing it. So I laid off for a little bit. I'm still working on my gut protocol, and I'm focusing more on the fruits, which being here in Phoenix is great. Like it's
Yeah,
still
that's
warm,
great.
so it's a good communication. But yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm making sure there was nothing else I was going to ask. And yeah, I hope, if anybody else has their stories, like I hope this has helped you in some way. But yeah, let's tell people where they can find you, your socials, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram, Meghann.Alice, Meghann.Alice. I also have a podcast on Spotify and iTunes called Meghann Unfiltered. I took a little bit of a break. I'm coming back in January, but there's still lots of episodes on there. But definitely send me a message on Instagram. Also, if you're in the Tampa, Florida area, there is a big event, Hack Your Health Conference. I'm on one of the panels,
That's so
so
exciting.
would love to see you there.
Awesome. I wish I could make it. That was
I'm
on
so
my
sad you're not going to be there.
I know. I had to go to Nashville for a conference there that I was a part of, and then we are fostering now, so I have to
Be a
limit
mom.
my travels. Yep.
Yeah.
But I will be in Florida after Christmas, but that's
What part?
down like near Sarasota, Fort Myers, right in between there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to be in the Panhandle for the winter, so but we're not close. We won't be close.
No, one of my best friends is up there too, and I thought about like taking a quick flight for one
It's
day.
like I feel like it's probably like an 8-hour drive from Sarasota to
It would be because you got to go up and around, so
yeah.
it would probably be at least, yeah. It's a big state. Yeah, we'll be over there. But anyways, yeah, it was great having you. Great hearing your story. I love everything you're doing, and you're just preaching the truth. And if someone gets offended, I don't
God
know.
bless.
Yeah, good luck. Work on yourself. Why is it bothering you? Why is it offending you? Is there truth being spoken that you don't want to hear? Yeah. So awesome. All right. We'll talk
Awesome.
later.
Thanks, Jen. Have a great one.
You too.